the news. The news is that I'm doing The Artist's Way. For anyone who doesn't know, like, I feel like it's a pretty famous book, but you know what I've learned about the internet though is like there are so many corners of it that have like no crossover between each other. And so what seems super famous and self-evident to me might not be to other people anyway. The Artist's Way is a 1992 book course by Julia Cameron in unlocking your higher creativity. It looks like this. I started The Artist's Way a few weeks ago, well, actually about 5 weeks ago, because I felt like I had to. I felt like I am too far gone. I am indeed too blocked to go on in my life anymore. So I need to do something drastic. Specifically, I need to do a 12-week course in higher creativity. And so that's what I'm doing. I mean, congratulations to me for getting to week 5 because week 4, let me tell you, was the hardest week I've had in a long time, like Artist's Way or otherwise. And I wanted to talk about it because like I thought it might be interesting, or maybe like I don't know, like if anyone else has gone through this, like it was wild. Anyway, week 4 is the week when you do what Julia Cameron calls reading deprivation, but you know, it was written in 1992 when like there weren't as many distractions in the world. So modern users of the book have updated it to be media deprivation. What this means is you have a full week of no reading, no TV, no social media. Like, just to give a quick rundown of how this went for me, reading actually was fine. Like, I thought it might be harder not to read than it was because, like, generally I do read every day. Like, I read usually every morning while I'm having breakfast, drinking my coffee. I read something for pleasure. It's, like, very much my habit. I was like, ooh, is that going to be, like, a painful habit to break? No. No. And I think it kind of told me something about the way I approach reading these days, which is that I almost approach it more as an obligation than anything else. I approach it as like a goal-oriented activity where I think, okay, I have to read for this amount of time and I have to read this many pages and I have to read a book of sufficient literary merit at all times. Like, it's exhausting. It's like actually terrible. Like, in a way, I am glad that I had this week of reading deprivation because I think it has on some level reset my relationship to the written word. And now I think I should probably try to reconnect with reading for fun and pleasure and just reading when I want to and not as an obligation. So I might start doing that. We'll see. And then TV deprivation, fine. I was fine. Didn't matter. I was okay. However, social media deprivation, it shook me to my core. It made me feel so unsettled in myself to a level that I like could not have anticipated before. Because before, I think I would have said my relationship to social media is okay. I wouldn't have said I'm a huge social media addict, though maybe I am. I would have said I go on TikTok sometimes and I watch some stuff. And I sometimes put some YouTube videos on, particularly in the background of my workday to like cut through the silence and boredom. But otherwise, like, I don't know, I'll check Facebook every now and then just to see if there's any interesting gossip from my hometown. I will very occasionally scroll Instagram, though that's pretty boring. I quit Twitter years ago, even pre-Elon Musk, because I felt like it was just like a useless time suck and I wasn't getting anything out of it. But depriving myself of social media was so hard. And so I started this media deprivation project on a Sunday. And by Monday, I was like in the deepest pits of loneliness I think I had ever been in my entire life. I felt so like bereft of social contact. So like picture, let's set the scene. I'm sitting in my living room. I'm working from home because I have to. I don't really like working from home that much, actually. Like, I would far prefer to like go work in like a coffee shop or something. But I had a couple of calls in like the early mid-afternoon. And so I'm like, oh, would I really have time? Would I feel like I have to cut my time in the coffee shop artificially short? Probably I won't go. So I'm just sitting here in the silence of my living room, no social media to distract me. And I just start to feel so alone and it just feels so quiet. And I try like to think my own thoughts. I think that's what I'm supposed to do in this Artist Way Week 4 is think my own thoughts, not rely on someone else's. But as I thought my own thoughts, it only reinforced my loneliness. And I tried to say some of my thoughts out loud to myself to cut through the silence. That did not help. It just made me want to cry. And so I was not having a good day. And then like essentially this continued through the rest of the week. It did not get easier. It did not get better. I didn't really feel like it unlocked any creative inspiration for me. In fact, I think I felt more creatively demotivated and uninspired than I had in quite some time. And I think I can attribute that to the general feelings of sadness. But I think to understand what really went on here, I need to like add a little more background context. And so like the thing that I'm dealing with in my life is that I'm living in London again. I think I've mentioned that. I've lived in London cumulatively for a long time, but like not continuously. So I basically left and come back to London a lot of times. And like the thing that happens when you live in a city and then you move away from that city for a while and then you come back is that, oh wow, the social world shifts around you. Things are still happening while you're away. People are making choices, moving different places, having kids, whatever. And then you come back and it's like, oh, wait, like everything that I thought my social life was is suddenly no longer in existence. And now like I don't know anyone anymore. And that's basically like largely what I'm dealing with here. I know a few people, not very many. So I'm kind of in this like moving induced social isolation. Compounded by the fact that I am a remote worker, so I don't have an office to go to. I don't have work colleagues. It's just me and my computer every day. And that doesn't help with loneliness and isolation. And so like, yeah, like I'm living in this state of kind of just me an island unto myself. And I don't necessarily see or talk to a lot of people in the course of a week. And so I realized what I'm doing with social media, of course, is I'm like supplementing for that otherwise lack of social interaction. I'm taking in these parasocial relationships in order to make myself feel less lonely in my day to day. And like what I kind of do then is like, well, obviously I'm just engaging parasocially with the world, not actually socially. And I feel like it kind of is like a band-aid on the whole situation, but it then it does end up being kind of empty. And maybe that's what I've come down to is that, yeah, like I am able to temporarily cut through the loneliness of my day-to-day life by looking at TikTok, by watching a YouTube video, but like it leaves me in this position where you take that away and then I am alone. But then also I learned something about my, I think, creative process. And that was that I think I also need the social life to be creative because in this last week, like I just was so unmotivated. I didn't want to work on my projects. I came to kind of resent my creative projects. I mostly just wanted to stay in bed. I didn't really want to work on anything. I didn't want to write anything. I didn't want to make videos. I just felt so like bland and boring without that input from like the rest of the world. What I would love to have is like a friend group. I want that dynamic. I want that dynamic of just like hanging out with a lot of people and having hilarity transpire. That's what I want. And I don't know how to get that in my current life. Like all I have are kind of offers to like hang out one-on-one, or I hang out with my husband and I'm like, yeah, sure, it's fine. But I really miss having a friend group. I really miss it. I really miss it. And so I think like what I've learned here is that, yeah, I think I really need to work on my social life somehow, which is like complicated because obviously, one, it's hard to make friends in a city like London. That has been talked about extensively. It is also hard to make friends at this age I'm at, you know, like in my 30s, like a lot of people are like settling down, having kids, like they don't have time to socialize anymore. And I'm like, wait, but I still want friends. Like, should I just like make a lot of much younger friends? Like, would they have me? And anyway, but yeah, it's hard to make friends in a city like London. And also, it's hard to make friends in your 30s. And also, I think I should say here that I am not much of a joiner. I don't really like clubs and groups. I find them annoying. Like, I'll join them, and I have joined many in my past life. Like, I've joined writing groups. I've joined, I don't know, I've even done like team sports like long, long ago. I've joined like, political type organizations. I had my phase of trying to be an activist, and like none of it stuck. I took classes and none of it stuck. None of it stuck because I just came ultimately to resent it. It felt like, well, I don't know if I'm really having fun. I don't know if I'm getting out of this what I want to get out of it. And it just seems to like take up my time. And I don't like groups. I don't like groups. That's all I can really say about it. I just don't like groups. I guess that's where we're at though. Like, these are my revelations from depriving myself of all media for a week. Now, would I recommend it though to someone also considering their own creative recovery and rebirth? And I would say, yeah, absolutely, 100% yes. It was so difficult and also so revealing though. Like, I definitely learned things about myself. I think that I didn't know before that I was quite as lonely and isolated as I actually am. And I did not know how much I think having a group of friends actually contributes to me feeling like a creative, motivated, inspired person in the world. Like, it turns out I'm very much not one of those like solitary writer types. Like, I need to engage with the world. And my writing is also better when I engage with the world. Like, I don't like the writing that comes out of the echo chamber of my own thoughts. I like my writing when it's like, here's an observation on society, here's a description of a social setting, here's a relationship story. Like, that's where I feel like I write well. And when I'm just like writing about sad girl, lonely girl in her room by herself, oh my God, it's so boring and bad. I hate it so much. Like, I'm so sick of that genre of literature anyway. And it's like, I feel like there is a lot of it these days because I think there are a lot of people in this super isolated, stuck state. And maybe my making this is also like partially just me saying, hey, like, I think I need to get out of this, but maybe other people are in the same place as me. And maybe other people could also benefit from, I don't know, like getting out more and doing more stuff in the world. And maybe that would help all of us with our creativity. I don't know. But yeah, it's been a week though.